Hello everyone, welcome to New Gen Politics. Canada just put forward a new bill called the Online Harms Act, also known as Bill C-63, and it's causing quite a stir for its implications on internet censorship. So first off, what is this bill, and what is its intended purpose? Well, in a move aimed at curbing the spread of what it terms, quote, online hate, the Liberal government of Canada has revealed its plan, including hefty fines for online speech and stringent punishments, including up to life imprisonment for hate crimes. Among the categories of harmful content identified in the Act are materials that incite violent extremism or terrorism, promote violence, or foment hatred. And the most important part of this is that last line about fomenting hatred. So on the surface, the bill seems pretty reasonable, right? That they're going to go after anybody who's inciting terrorism or violent extremism, anybody calling for violence. The bill also specifically says it wants to target content that sexualizes or victimizes children. And so all of that is good. All of that is good to increase the punishments for, to increase the identification and prosecution of. But nestled in this bill is a very prominent aspect regarding hate. And as we all know, hate is pretty subjective. In order to combat hate, what this bill would do would be to establish the Digital Safety Commission of Canada, the Digital Safety Ombudsperson of Canada, and the Digital Safety Office of Canada. And what all those would do would be to administer and enforce the act. So you're creating a new organization in the government to specifically target online hate and all that goes along with that. And one of its forms is merely hate speech, which again is a very subjective term, but what the government deems hate speech will have severe penalties. Quote, new standalone hate crime offense that would apply to every offense in the criminal code and in any other act of parliament, allowing penalties up to life imprisonment to denounce and deter this hateful conduct as a crime in itself. The text of the bill defines content that foments hatred as any content that expresses detestation or vilification of an individual or group of individuals on the basis of a prohibited ground of discrimination within the meaning of the Canadian Human Rights Act. And that, given the context in which it is communicated, is likely to foment detestation or vilification of an individual or group of individuals on the basis of such a prohibited ground. So basically, any speech that they deem is detesting a group of people or vilifying a group of people, whatever you subjectively determine those to be, is punishable severely. Anybody will also be able to file complaints against others for, quote, posting hate speech online that is discriminatory against protected categories such as gender, race, disability, and others. Amendments to the Canadian Human Rights Act will let anybody file complaints against persons posting so-called hate speech with the Canadian Human Rights Commission. If found guilty, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal can order those found to violate the government's definition of hatred with fines up to $70,000 and takedown orders for content. According to the text of the bill, the tribunal has the power to order payments of up to $20,000 for victims of so-called online hate. So that money goes directly to the victim out of your pocket if you say something out of line, as well as an order to pay the government $50,000, quote, if the member panel considers it appropriate. And when has the government ever turned down the opportunity to take money away from people? If they can squeeze $50,000 out of you because you said something they didn't like, they're going to do it. So all this being said, the government's going after anybody who spreads hate. And what is the government's definition of hate? Well, according to the bill, it clarifies. According to subsection 319(7), hatred means the emotion that involves detestation or vilification and that is stronger than disdain or dislike. And again, subjective, incredibly subjective. And what does this mean? If you say something online like, I don't like Justin Trudeau very much. I don't think he's a very good prime minister. That could be seen as just disliking him. But if you say, we need to remove Justin Trudeau from office, he's a terrible, horrible leader, well, that kind of sounds like disdain. Is that a threat? You want to remove him from office? By what means? Force? Are you calling for violence? That's what this bill could lead to, is it's a slippery slope of subjective reasoning that could be enforced by the courts in any way. So if you have a very liberal judge who determines that you've said something online that offends a group of individuals, you can receive life imprisonment and a fine of $70,000 for just saying, I don't like this group of people. I don't like what they're doing. I don't like illegal migrants. I don't like how men act in this way. I don't like how women act in this way. Any sort of opinionated content is going to be deemed as hate speech. It's ridiculous. And it's totally the destruction of freedom of speech in Canada. Not that they had it already, but they at least had some ability to speak freely. But this is going way overboard. Life imprisonment if you say anything out of line that the government doesn't like. And there's no specific terms, it's just whatever they deem to be hate speech. So you could get unlucky and get a very, very liberal judge who says, I don't like what this guy said in this situation to this person. I think he said, I don't like this actor because the actor's black. Not just because he doesn't like the actor's work, but because he doesn't like him because of the color of his skin, or anything of that magnitude. You could say the call for mass deportation of illegal migrants is a call for violence. You want to drag them from their homes. You want to throw them out of the country. You want to take away their human rights. That sounds like detestation to me. That sounds like you're vilifying them. That's life imprisonment for you, buddy. So, I mean, this is just a disaster. It's currently tabled, but it's still available to be passed. And the fact that we're even having these conversations about passing legislation like this is insane. This will be the death of Canada. I mean, look at what happened with the trucker protests. They already shut down bank accounts, froze people's bank accounts, said they were committing hate speech. And that was before this bill would even be in place. If this bill is in place now, any form of protest, any form of open speech against any government official is going to be deemed hate speech. The government has every ability to take the law to the logical extreme and determine any individual calling for any sort of protest against the government is calling for violence, is calling for vilification, is calling for destabilization, and you could get that person life imprisonment. This is just so absurd. But it'd be a huge win for globalism. It'd be a huge win for Justin Trudeau's regime to stay in power. You can just arrest your political enemies. And how do we get to this point? I mean, pretty clear to me. You've slowly eaten away at people's ability to protect and defend themselves from government tyranny. And now you end up in this situation where the government can be as tyrannical as they want, and you're going to have to put up with it. And that very well could happen in America. The reason it hasn't yet is because the government fears the people, still to some extent, because we have the Second Amendment, because we have the First Amendment. And although they keep trying to eat away at those, America has stood pretty resilient against those advances. But if our neighbor to the north does it, America might follow suit. We're really only 1 or 2 administrations away from this exact sort of situation happening in the United States. So it's relevant to see what Canada does because culturally we're very similar. And Canada seems to be about 10 years ahead of us in terms of policy. I'm not saying that's good. The 10 years in the future is not a good future. It's dystopian and terrifying, but it's a mirror into the future. You can see what's coming, and hopefully we can witness that, learn from Canada's mistakes, and avoid that. But it's also good as, noble human beings who like liberty to spread this sort of information in countries where you're still allowed freedom of speech, like the United States, to help stand up for Canadian friends who have no ability to defend themselves from the government and to speak openly about things they like and dislike about their country. So we'll see what happens. If this bill gets anywhere close to passing, that's very scary. And the best thing that would happen for Canada is it not to pass and people to remove Justin Trudeau from office, because he is the main proponent of these sort of ideologies. He is the reason Canada is falling to pieces as a country, barely maintaining its status as a country. So please pray for the people of Canada, spread the word about this bill, bring it to light the consequences of this, and how horrible it would be for the people of Canada. Dragging evil out into the light is the way to defeat it. And that's what I'm trying to do right here, right now, and I encourage you to all do the same thing by sharing this video or other videos like it, and let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.